We're going to have to end there. We're now heading over to Studio Red.
York Sports President. The York Sports President is the main point of contact for all university and college sport clubs. They coordinate and develop sport within USU and work to increase opportunities and participation. They help to shape the direction of sports and physical activity at the University of York, as well as running massive events such as Roses, College Varsity and Colours Ball.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm here with Tanisha, also goes by TJ, for the role of sports president. So for my first question, I'm going to go straight to your manifesto. You state that you want to destigmatise stereotypes. What does that mean and how will you use that in practice?
So by destigmatizing stereotypes, what I mean is a lot of times people have a preconceived image of what an athlete should look like. Have tall, muscular, six-pack abs, lots of stamina, this, that. And personally, I think that's quite wrong because I feel like an athlete can be anybody from someone able-bodied to someone with a disability, someone skinny, someone fat. I don't think any of these things mattered. But unfortunately, it is something that people have in mind, and they're quite shocked when they see people who look like me, who are tall and big and fat, playing sports or doing sports or being involved in these things because they're like, oh, you're fat, how do you run? And it quite honestly hurts a lot because sports is something I truly believe should be accepting of everybody, no matter your body size, no matter your disability, no matter your background age, anything, nothing should matter when it comes to sports. And that is what I mean when I say I want to destigmatize stereotypes. Certain sports are conceived as man sports, and they, when women play it, they're like, oh, it's a man sport. That's a stereotype, and these things are what I want to destigmatize, to show people that you can be anybody, you can be from anywhere, you can look like whatever you want, you can have n number of issues, and you would be accepted in the sporting community.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So talking about that level of inclusivity, you mentioned the women non-binary gym hours in your manifesto. Apart from this, how are you going to address gender inclusivity in sport?
So as a part of the LGBTQ plus community, it hurts to see that there are a lot of queer people, trans people, non-binary students who can't take part in a certain sport or a certain team because of who they are. And again, going back to the women and non-binary gym hours, it's a very good thing that's happened, and honestly, I'm quite happy that we launched that. But it's not gone as well. And obviously, instead of trying to increase the gym hours, I'd rather talk to people and see why these issues are occurring in the first place. Like, why is this not going as we expected it to? So instead of just doing things and going by what I think it's important to talk to people who are women, who are non-binary, who are trans, to see what they want from this university. I really want to create a central club for our trans athletes, our non-binary athletes, our gender fluid athletes, and anybody who wants to be in so that we can hear what these people have to say. As someone who's now not trans or does not fall under the category of non-binary, I can only go by speculation on what they want, but I don't actually know what they do. I feel like forming a centralized club where these student voices can be heard, and that they can work with college sport and university sport and York sport, and we can increase inclusivity. We have a lot of non-gendered clubs. Like, for example, James College, their football club has just become like one club instead of having a men's football and women's football, and that will give so many athletes the opportunity to go and play the sport they thought they never could because of who they are. And that is my idea around increasing inclusivity, is to actually form a central club with these athletes and see what we can do from there and what they want and what sports they can play, because I feel like at a Bucks level, there is very little we can do, because at the end of the day, we're one university out of hundreds that Bucks probably has. They wouldn't really care if we just give them an ultimatum being like, if you don't change this, we're going to pull out our teams. Like, that's not really an answer to anything. I feel like instead of that, at a university level, we can make a change. We can have these athletes play in our college leagues or leagues that we play at a university level rather than going straight to Bucks. Because unless and until we make a change at our university, at our colleges, I don't see the point of doing something so drastic and so big that could probably affect a lot of other students when there are things we could do at our level.
Yeah, definitely. I think keeping on looking at the York focus, a big part of this role is college sport, as you mentioned in your manifesto. Now that there are 2 new colleges, Cato and Anlister, how will you make sure that sports facilities can meet such a high demand?
So I've had a lot of thoughts about how we could, give people better training times and this and that. And I think we need to take out an audit, and that's what I personally want to do. Take out an audit of our facilities and see how we can maximize the use of our own facilities. Because making promises saying that, oh, we'll build new facilities, these are promises that can be made, but they can't be done under a year. All of these are long-term investments, which I also do want to work on, but I can only set a setting stone to set, a step to that. I can't really get it done in under a year. I want to see that there will be training times where probably in a club 5 people are turning up at a peak training time, while a club that would actually have a turnover of about like 30 people is getting later training time. So taking an audit out and see how we are using the facilities, who's getting these training times, who's actually making the most use of them. And I know some teams, they train like 4 or 5 days a week. And I personally think that's overworking an athlete, because if you give your athletes quality training for even twice or thrice a week, that would probably improve their skills more than just doing the same kind of training 5 days a week. If these clubs cut down from training that many times a week to probably twice or thrice, that would free up a lot of time for training times to go to other clubs, to college sport. Because I don't think that we should consider university sport better than college sport, or college sport better than a university sport. I think it's time that we look at them at the same level. Our college sport system is probably one of the best in the country, and I will stand by that. And I think we need to put it at par with university and show the people who play college sport that they're not under university sport, they're at their own level, and they deserve as much recognition as a university sport does. I personally believe college sport is one of the peak experiences of uni. I have talked to a lot of people who said that it's been their defining experience at university, being a part of a college and being part of a college committee. And that is something we should be able to work on.
Definitely. So continuing on about colleges, pre-COVID, college membership was a lot cheaper than it is now. It is now £18 a term. How are you going to make sure that sport is accessible when it is so expensive?
So when it comes to college sport memberships, I personally think that it's at quite a good price, because I think it's £20 now, and it's going to get increased to 24, but I'm not sure. But I think for the amount of money, you can play about 15 college sports for the entire year. Compare that to a university membership, which would probably cost 80 quid for an entire year. £20 a year is, £20 a year is quite accessible. And I can understand there will still be people who can't access that. There's the accessibility grant for that, which they can go towards. And, they can get money for it and they can still play. And I think college sport definitely, because pre-COVID, things were also very cheaper. And with the cost of living crisis these days, I'm glad that we have an accessibility fund that our athletes can go to play college sport and university sport. And I think that helps a lot. I think these subsidies do need to be expanded, because we have a lot of students. And I am going to work towards expanding subsidies, especially for accessibility. And that doesn't mean financial accessibility. That means more disability sport, more spaces for people with disabilities, because not every disability is visible. Some are hidden. And a lot of times people question that, because just because you physically don't look disabled, they'd be like, oh, you're not. But that's not the case. And I feel like this grant helps a lot of people. And
Yeah, so on to my final question. So you mentioned in the York Vision coverage, given sports such as archery and ultimate frisbee more sort of representation, but they are already Rose's sports and they are covered by the entirety of student media. So what do you mean by this, and how can you further represent them?
Yeah, by that I was just giving an example of what a smaller club would be like, because I feel like there is the smaller clubs, and that was I use an example of like archery. They're like ultimate frisbee, amazing club, and honestly, I didn't know that it existed before I came to university. And once I found about it, I was so happy that there's an unconventional sport like that. But then I think a lot of students, especially like international students, wouldn't know about these sports because they're not as conventional. And this is why I meant that I want to give smaller clubs a higher representation. Doesn't matter if they're Rose, but throughout the year. And that extends to college sport, not just university sports.
Okay, really, really quickly, what is one word that you would use to describe your campaign for why students should vote for you? Really quick. I might have to cut you off.
Inclusivity.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Tisha. We will now be heading over to Studio Blue with Grace for an international PTO candidate.